Thank you, President, for the introduction. Today we are publishing our annual beer statistics publication, which looks at some of the key indicators of last year and the trends of the last 7 years in production, consumption, trade, brewery numbers, and tax revenues. However, I would like to start by taking us back 10 years to the global economic crisis, which hit the beer sector in Europe hard in 2009, with a drop in production, down in just 1 year by 4%, or 1.5 billion liters of beer. Consumption also down by 4%, and exports also declining. Now, whilst production by another 500 million liters and consumption continued to decline in 2010, already a small upturn in exports was an early sign of gradual recovery in some countries and for some brewers. It also gave a taster of the export capabilities of some of the new breweries that were starting to spring up across Europe. What followed was a few years where European beer consumption continued to gradually decline, but exports continued to gradually rise, compensating for some of the continued drops in consumption. As a result, beer production, albeit with slight fluctuations year on year, remained relatively stable in the period from 2010 up to 2013. However, it was in 2014 and the following years that we saw the shoots of recovery turn to a clear renaissance. This was when the continued increase in exports was matched by a steady but gradual increase in consumption, leading to 4 consecutive years of growth in beer production. As exports reached an all-time high last year, combined with the consolidation of the growth in beer consumption of the previous 3 years, European brewing experienced its 4th consecutive year of growth as beer production in 2017 reached its highest level since 2008. Let's look at what has been going on behind the scenes of these aggregate figures. What we see then is a vastly changing beer environment, with thousands of new breweries and multiple new beer styles, flavors, and strengths. The President of the Brewers of Europe referred to it very clearly in his welcoming remarks, but one of the big stories of the last decade has been the blossoming of new breweries. Whilst there was continued consolidation at the top of the beer market, even as the beer market as a whole was threatened by the economic downturn, the numbers of breweries operating in the EU was acting as a bright light. In the 5 years following the crisis, around 2,200 new breweries came on to the EU scene as brewery numbers increased by 64%. Then, as the overall beer market stabilized and then grew again, brewery numbers increased even faster, with around 1,000 new breweries opening every year, or 2 to 3 every single day. They almost doubled in just a 5-year period, reaching 9,500 at the latest count. These predominantly microbrewers and SMEs have helped drive the export growth, kickstart the recovery in the EU beer market, and have certainly also been a driver of the ever greater diversity and choice now available to Europe's beer consumers. Amongst the new specialty beers hitting the market are also increasing numbers of both non-alcoholic and lower alcohol beers of many different tastes and styles. Indeed, perhaps this partly explains why beer consumption in Europe is now increasing within the context where overall alcohol consumption is actually declining. Of course, when we talk about Europe's beer consumers, we are really talking about different consumers, both within markets and between different markets. There are 2 graphs from the booklet that really show clearest how the national beer cultures vary, without getting into debates about favored beer styles and brands. On average in Europe, whilst 2/3 of beer is sold through off-trade retail channels, the shops and the supermarkets, 1/3 of beer is sold through the on-trade or HoReCa sector. The cafes, bars, restaurants, pubs, beer gardens, nightclubs, and brasseries. However, you can see from the graph that the numbers vary hugely, with the off-trade channel even bigger in some countries, whilst the statistics are reversed in Ireland, Malta, Portugal, Ireland, Spain, and Greece, where 2/3 of beer is still consumed in the on-trade HoReCa. Our detailed economic contribution reports have time and again shown how crucial this second channel is for value, tax revenues, and job creation, with one job in a brewery generating 2 in supply and agriculture, 2 in retail, and a further 13 jobs in the bars, pubs, cafes, and restaurants. We need to support this. And here we have a second graph showing that diversity clearly through the numbers on per capita beer consumption, where our Czech friends continue to lead, followed by Austria, Germany, and Poland. And by the way, Romania is not very far away. More facts and figures can be found in the publication published and available to you all today. I would just like to close my intervention on 2 policy points. Firstly, consumer information. Alongside greater diversity and choice of beers, Europe's consumers are increasingly discerning. That is why Europe's brewers, proud of the quality products they brew, committed in 2015 to voluntarily listing ingredients and nutrition information in the same way that other foods and non-alcoholic beverages are already obliged to do so by law. And I'm proud to announce that by the end of this year, over half of Europe's beers will be labeling calorie values, whilst 3/4 will be labeling ingredients. This is a commitment we have made to the EU's Health Commissioner, Vytenis Andriukaitis, who will address the Brewers of Europe's General Assembly tomorrow morning. But it is also a commitment to European citizens, 86% of whom believe alcoholic beverages should list ingredients just like other drinks and show nutrition information per 100 ml, the legal reference volume already used by consumers for comparing all other drinks. Secondly, taxation. In this area, brewers call for a supportive tax regime that recognizes the intrinsic characteristics of beer and the labor-intensive brewing process. We call for a regime that may also be used to help nudge consumers towards beer, low-alcohol product that can be fully compatible with a balanced lifestyle. I would now like to introduce and invite onto stage the person whose members are providing all the beers tonight, my colleague and general manager of the Brewers of Romania, Miss Julia Lifferman. Julia?